You're listening to the True Crime Nation podcast with Todd and Brian. If you're enjoying the show, email us at truecrimenation@outlook.com. Let's start the show. Welcome back to the True Crime Nation podcast. I'm Brian, and with me as always over there is Todd. What's up, buddy?
Hey, man. How you doing tonight?
Fantastic.
Awesome. It's good to
Ready
be here.
for another interesting story.
Yes, it is. Good to be here to do another crime episode with you tonight. We're going to talk about some interesting stuff again. Tonight we're going to talk about something that's out there, I believe, on Netflix right now. Streaming is the Texas killing fields.
That's a Netflix thing, huh?
I think so. I think it is.
Cool.
Maybe I should Google that, but
yeah, we should check that out if it is.
It's a movie or something that's going on out there right now. It's a 2011 film. I'm sorry. Maybe it's on Netflix, but yeah, 2011 film. So basically it's about a stretch of land, apparently, where they found, I think, almost 30 women in this area of Texas.
Wow.
In the early 1970s, 33 bodies of murder victims have been found within the killing fields area. So we're going to cover that one tonight, as you know.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And all being specific to an area, you're thinking serial killer, right? Who knows?
You would think.
Obviously, it wasn't 33 different people dropping off bodies.
like where people used to dump couches and stuff on old abandoned dirt roads.
I know a good place down the road to dump bodies if you never need to know.
If you need to dump a body.
Yeah. Yeah. And this hasn't been solved. They don't know who was
Wow. Still hasn't been. Wow. That's amazing.
So let's get into it. What do you say?
All right. Let's do it.
All right. Go ahead. Take it on, sir.
Decades later, investigators still searching for answers in murders of 4 women. The women seemingly had little in common. One was just a teenager. Another was a local bartender. One was a 30-year-old mechanic. The fourth was a young mother. But their lives appear to have ended in the same place, a rural field off of a dirt road in League City, Texas, between Houston and Galveston. It was a desolate space, dotted by little more than oil rigs and dirt roads. If they cried for help, it's unlikely anyone heard. Years after finding the 4 bodies in that field near Calder Road, part of an area that became known as the Killing Fields, investigators are still trying to find the murderers. It's important for the public to know that we have not given up. It may be labeled a cold case, but that doesn't mean it's sitting on a shelf and isn't being worked, said Special Agent Richard Runnison, who has worked the Calder Road killings case out of the FBI's Houston field office, Texas City resident agency, for more than a decade. It's being worked actively at the FBI and actively at the League City Police Department.
So let me stop you real quick. I'm looking at League City on the map here. I didn't realize that's where this place was. I mean, it's between Houston and the ocean, basically. Galveston, just a strip of highway there. I don't know why that would be so intriguing. Whoever was doing this just worked that area, apparently.
I've been to Galveston.
Have you? You've probably traveled that highway then.
Yeah, probably.
If you flew into Houston.
Weird. No, we drove over when I lived in Louisiana.
Looks like 45, Highway 45 running from Houston to Galveston, I'm guessing is...
Yep, I think that's the road we took.
Is where these things are located.
Weird.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, that's interesting. Small world.
Wait a minute. Were you there in the 70s?
No. No. Late 90s.
Okay.
In 1983, a young bartender named Heidi Faye went missing in League City a few months after her disappearance. Her body was discovered in that rural field. A year later, 16-year-old Laura Miller disappeared just after she'd moved with her family to League City. She'd gone to a nearby store to use a payphone and never returned. In 1986, Miller's body was found in the same field, not far from where Faye's had been.
Interesting.
Yeah, I can't believe that this is going to be more than one person. I just can't.
Well, I'm just thinking about that. This started in the 70s, right?
Yeah. And they didn't find him until the 80s.
And this is 86.
Mm-hmm.
But it said in 1983 they came up missing. So this guy, if it was one person, he'd been working 10, 15 years.
Been doing it for a while.
Doing this, which, yeah, I mean, 33 bodies, unless you're...
Yeah. During the search for Miller, police made a gruesome discovery, a third body. The police had no leads as to who the unidentified woman was. She became known as Jane Doe. In 1981, passerbys discovered a fourth body, known at that time as Janet Doe. While Fay and Miller were positively identified through dental records, limited scientific options at that time meant that Jane Doe and Janet Doe could remain unknown for more than 20 years until just a few months ago. Wow. Actually, when was this?
Depends on when the article is written, but yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. The investigation. While the League City Police Department remains the lead agency, the FBI has brought significant resources to the cases. The FBI laboratory has examined evidence, and the FBI's behavioral experts created a profile of a possible killer. And although the leads have come and gone, the murders remain unsolved. There are no known witnesses to any of the killings, and no common person connects all four.
Random.
So,
just random.
Yeah,
random
so they have a
graphs.
profile, but
You would think with DNA nowadays, they could catch this dude or find out who it was if he's not alive.
maybe. Unless it was too contaminated, too corroded, too degraded. I don't know what they call it.
I mean, if whoever was doing this was, say, 30 years old back in 1970, they probably pretty much dead and gone at this point, I'm guessing.
I'm sure. They're on their deathbed, one of the two.
Unless they started at a young age,
Right. To date, the signs point to one killer, although multiple killers can't be ruled out. Given the nature of the area where the bodies were found, it was likely someone with roots in the area. Someone would have known those fields were a good place to leave a body, Renison explained. The investigators have scoured missing persons databases and appealed to the public for tips. But with each passing year, the case gets tougher to crack. Yeah. With that much time going by, people lose their memories, Renison said. People pass away. People just simply forget. It's hard to remember significant details from that long ago. See, that's the big one.
So I'm saying DNA. Yeah,
but again, I'm sure they've tried that. But how degraded is it over the years,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a limit to
right. Yeah, that's
what
true.
they can get and how long they can get it.
That's true.
I would think.
I don't know. I don't know.
Who knows? I don't know. I'm not a DNA guy.
Maybe we should do our DNA homework before we do these episodes.
Maybe we should. Maybe we should do a little.
We didn't claim to be
Take another online course on DNA.
Professional detectives here, right?
Right.
And we're gonna have to take a course on criminal justice.
Something. Right. Forensics.
There you go. Forensics.
Renison later joined the FBI and became the case agent for those killings in 2005. He has been involved in the case in some way ever since, either as the case agent or supervisor. So this guy's been there basically from the beginning when they first found the bodies in the 80s. He's got to be super frustrated.
Yeah, you would think somebody who's in the FBI working on a case for so long would come into something with the technology that we do have nowadays, but
you would think, something.
I just wonder what they know.
The breakthrough.
Oh, okay.
While leads have dwindled over the years, science and technology has advanced. In January 2019, Renison received a call that breathed new life into this cold case. The identification of Jane Doe and Janet Doe.
Mm-hmm.
Jane Doe, found in 1986, was Audrey Lee Cook. Cook had worked as a mechanic and lived in the Houston, Channelview, and Heights areas of Texas. She was last seen in December 1985. Janet Doe, who was found in 1991, was identified as Donna Gonsolin Prudhomme. Knowing the names of the women has given Renison and the local police something to work with. They're contacting neighbors and friends and reviewing police records from that time. So, all right. So the DNA did pan out.
It did come out. Yep.
Yeah. So they got at least the two.
Right.
So if the killer had left any kind of something, blood, hair, something, they got to be able to find that, right?
You would think. And this is talking about just 4 women that they found and I believe identified. Again, there were 33 victims, and I believe they identified most of them, but I'm not sure.
A key part of the investigation is appealing to the public for help. Renison and local police need to talk to anyone who can provide additional information. Details as simple as where the women worked or the names of friends who haven't been interviewed could be key to solving these murders.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if there's anybody left, there's got to be somebody out there that saw them like 10 minutes before.
Yeah, unless these girls left, they were totally alone. They met whoever this person was that was doing these things alone. No one saw, and they were taken away somehow or tricked.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Somebody probably had to have seen or heard something.
And again, this is the mid 80s. No cell phones, no CCTV, no cameras of any kind anywhere, other than the Polaroids or something.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no internet. There's no way to track these.
Well, another thing too I'm thinking about here is how do you, even back then, even now, I mean, how would you coerce 33 women to get in your vehicle or to leave with you, unless you were some really slick, suave dude, or maybe it was just...
Let's ask Ted Bundy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Maybe this is a Ted Bundy type guy, or maybe he just came up behind them when they weren't paying attention and cracked them over the head. And
yeah, could just bashed them and took them. Yeah, you never know.
There's a lot to understand about this. I mean, were their vehicles found somewhere? Were they left,
right.
All that comes into play that they're not going to tell us.
Well, hopefully we'll get to that. The victims and families. Tim Miller's 16-year-old daughter, Laura, was a musically gifted teenager who had lots of dreams, her father said. But high school became challenging to her after she began to have debilitating seizures. She missed school, had to leave the choir, and struggled socially. After her family moved to League City, Laura asked if she could go to a payphone to call her boyfriend since her family's phone was not yet connected. On September 10th, 1984, her mother drove her to the payphone, and Laura planned to walk a half mile back home. When her parents and her boyfriend arrived at the house later that day, Laura was not there. At the time, police considered her a runaway and assured the Millers she would call home. So mom just dumped her off at a payphone. I went home.
So
but see, back then it was a different time. I mean, that's just what people did. I mean, I walked to many payphones when I was a kid.
And people trusted people more back then too, and would have said, "Oh, I just live a half mile down the road. Oh, jump in. I'll just take you there."
Right. Right. But as months passed, it was clear Laura was not coming home. Tim Miller began researching similar murders in the area, even conducting his own searches. I knew in my heart that Laura wasn't coming home alive. I was afraid she was never going to be located, he said. More than a year after her disappearance, Laura's body was found. Helping families with a missing loved one became Miller's life work. He now runs Texas EQUU Search, a Texas-based nonprofit that searches for missing people. He says his organization has found more than 250 bodies all over the world.
Wow.
And has recovered living missing people as well.
Really?
That's amazing.
That is amazing.
Good for that guy.
This guy is serious. Well, yeah. I mean, look what happened, though. Lost his daughter. I don't blame him.
Yeah. I mean, out of the tragedy comes something good,
Right.
So, God bless him. Miller recalls being contacted by a mother whose teenage daughter had gone missing. He saw the same anguish in her eyes that he felt when Laura was missing. I said, My God, that's how I had to look for 17 months. In that moment, I made a promise to God that I would never leave a family alone, he said.
Wow.
Good.
Cool.
Need more people like that.
Yeah.
While the Millers waited 17 months, Diane Gonsolin Hastings waited more than 30 years to find out what happened to her sister, Donna, who Diane described as a beautiful woman and mother who loved to cook Cajun food and go fishing. Donna Gonsolin Prudhomme was one of 6 children. She grew up and lived most of her life in the Port Arthur area of Texas. She married and had 2 sons, but when her husband became abusive, she was forced to leave with her children, according to her sister. She had a pretty tough life, but she loved her children so much, and we all just do the best we can with what we have, Gonsolin Hastings said. By the late 1980s, Donna was in a new relationship and raising her sons. Donna kept in touch with her family, and Gonsolin Hastings thought her sister seemed happy. But after that relationship ended, Donna fell on hard times. She took her children to the grandmother's house and moved to Clear Lake, Texas, to try to rebuild her life and one day take her children back, her sister said. In 1989, Donna asked her sister for a copy of her birth certificate so she could travel. Gonsolin Hastings mailed the birth certificate to Donna's home in Clear Lake and never heard from her sister again. Wow.
Yeah.
Gonsolin Hastings and her family made numerous attempts to find Donna through the years she was missing, through letters and reaching out to her friends. They worked with investigators and prayed for her return. As technology evolved, they also used the internet to try to find her. But the years went by without word from Donna. Her sons grew up, missing their mother. Her oldest son was paralyzed in a serious car accident and asked his aunt about his mother every time he saw her. He died before Donna's remains were identified.
Jeez.
Man. In 2008, Gonsolin Hastings worked with a private investigator in a last-ditch effort to find her sister. There's not a trace, and he said you have 2 choices. You can believe she's no longer with us, or that she started a new, good life. Gonsolin Hastings said, I couldn't believe that Donna had run away. I just kept saying, but she loved her kids. Earlier this year, Gonsolin Hastings received an unexpected phone call. Her sister's remains had been identified. The body that had been found in the killing fields in 1981, previously known as Janet Doe, was Donna's. For the family, it meant some closure to their pain. In May, they finally held a funeral for Donna in her native Port Arthur. Well, at least they got something.
Yeah.
I mean, at least they got her back.
Right.
So they can lay her to rest normally now. Gonsolin Hastings has read everything she can about her sister's murder and the murderers of the other women in the area, but she is mostly focused on moving forward. For me, I just can't get into the justice part of it because for me, it's about healing our family, she said.
We talked about this before. It'd be a lot harder nowadays to be a Ted Bundy or somebody like this, whoever did this.
Oh, yeah. Right.
To get away with killing 30-some people.
Right. Well, because everything's so connected now.
Yeah, cell phones, towers pinging those things. I mean, you'd have to be really, really stealthy to do it once, let alone 33 times.
Absolutely.
So just in that fact alone, technology has saved lives, I guess. Am I saying that right in that aspect? But
yeah, I mean, pretty much it has.
But there's still people out there. There's got to be people out there that still have those urges to want to do this kind of thing, right?
Oh, I'm sure they're still out there doing it. Absolutely.
So how are they getting by, not satisfying their kill quota?
Stay off the internet.
Right? Anyway, yeah.
The area around the fields has developed considerably since the 1980s and 90s. It now has a paved road and is across the street from a housing development. The local church owns the land. The church and community members have created a peaceful memorial to the 4 women. Each woman has her own marker decorated with their photos, names, and mementos. We really claim that area. We're changing the name of that place from the Killing Fields to the Healing Fields, Miller said. We're actually going to build a little park there. We've got some plans. As for Renison, these are the only cold cases he's worked that remain unsolved. As he gets closer to retirement age, Renison hopes to bring closure to these cases as well, both the victims' families and the community. Anything anyone in the public knows, no matter how small they think it is, We really want them to come forward because it may be very significant to us, Renison said. There's a list of
30.
all the bodies that are found.
And I'm looking at this thing, and we won't
From
go through the names.
1971 to 2001.
2016.
Yeah. Oh, found in 2016. Who knows when they got murdered?
Looking at the ages of these victims, 14, 13, 19, 15, 14, 13, 12, 16, 12, 12, 14. I mean, young women.
Except for a couple.
Audrey Cook was 30. Donna was 34.
One down here, Tot Harriman was 57.
23 years old. Harriman, 57. Probably his last one. They never found her. They just said she was last seen, so they're guessing that she's a victim as well. I don't know about that. That age is pretty high.
For the most part, the murders of the Texas killing fields have not been solved, including the murders of Heidi Willareel Faye, Laura Miller, Audrey Cook, and Donna Prudhomme, who are the focus of the new series from Netflix.
Aha!
So
Netflix.
Yeah. So there it is. I'm going to have to watch that now.
Yeah, me too. Listeners, make sure you check it out.
If you haven't watched it, check it out.
If you haven't watched it. If you have, listen to this podcast. Help us out. Email us and tell us what you think or what you know about this. We don't have a lot of clues here, so shoot us an email. Right. truecrimenation@outlook.com.
You got to think that somebody out there somewhere knows something.
Right. Well, it's talking about a guy named Michael Lloyd Self, a convicted sex offender, became a suspect for the murders of a couple of the women. He did confess. I saw that, but he confessed to them. He said, "That doesn't mean it was him."
Right.
He aided the discovery of the bodies. However, in the ensuing months, Self actually retracted his confession. Mm-hmm. Well, how would he know where the bodies were? Or maybe there was more than one person involved in this.
Maybe.
And maybe Michael Lloyd Self was one of those people.
Who knows? Cults were big back then, you know? It's just, I don't know.
I'm wondering if it wasn't more than one dude. It was a couple dudes who were kidnapping and raping and killing young women.
Yeah, but usually when it's two or more people, they can hone in on one. Well, I mean, they never, like, it'd be more likely for two people to get caught than one person. You know what I mean? Because somebody's going to slip up.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
One of the dudes are going to make a mistake.
Right.
It says
or
here.
Talk too much or something.
Right. It said he claimed he'd been tortured into making the confession, subjected to suffocation with a plastic bag, cigarette burns, and being assaulted by a police chief. Well, show me the cigarette burns then, because they'd still be on your body.
Oh, yeah, it's tough scars.
Whether or not Self was innocent, he's closely tied to a man called Edward Harold Bell, who had previously been arrested 12 times for exposing himself to children. 12 times.
Just shoot him at that point. Just put a bullet in his head. That is ridiculous.
After being in prison for the murder of a man named Larry Dickens, Bell wrote a number of letters to the Harris County attorney, claiming to have murdered 5 girls in 1971 and 6 more between 74 and 77.
Yeah, I believe that they could be multiple murderers that just dumped bodies at that place because they knew it was a desolate area, but are they connected? Were they working together? I don't know, man.
You know, the tough thing for us to try to dig into these, and we just don't want to come out here and just say, well, here is the crime, see ya. I mean, we want to talk about this and try to help figure this out, but we don't have enough clues. We don't know enough of this. There's more to this than we don't know. You know, like right. Where were they last seen?
I mean, a lot of this is public record, and we could probably find out if we took the time to call the Texas police or whatever, but
I don't know.
That's a lot of work.
I don't know if it would be. I don't know if it would be because, you know, being unsolved like unsolved, I don't know.
I think a lot of it's probably public knowledge. A lot of it probably isn't because it is unsolved, but I'm sure we can find out some stuff.
I will say one thing.
Got to know something.
Just the age of these girls tells me right there that they were, you know, obviously easy prey. This person could have forcefully taken them probably pretty easy.
Yeah.
So it may not even been a persuasion thing. Young teenage girls or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It says Bell was never charged with the murders due to lack of evidence. And then there's a guy named Mark Roland Stallings who was serving 2 life sentences for separate crimes, confessed to killing Donna Prudhomme in 2013. However, he was never charged. He remains a suspect in the case.
Yeah, I know.
Why do people do that? Yeah, it was me. I did it.
Because they're crazy.
It was me. What? Do they want to stay in prison? Do they
Looking
want
for press, man. I don't know.
Are they trying to get the chair?
I don't know. I don't know why they would do that. Yeah, man, down in Texas, they don't mess around either. They'll execute you.
Yeah, exactly. There's a guy named Clyde Hendrick, holds a previous conviction for abuse of a corpse in relation to 30-year-old Ellen Beeson in 1984. Was also on the police radar.
Lord.
No evidence tied him to the crimes. Abuse of a corpse. You know what that means? You know what that dude was doing?
Yo, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we know. I think everybody knows what that means.
I mean, sick people.
Yeah.
So you got to wonder if this guy wasn't living either in Galveston or Houston, driving back and forth to work. That's something I would check those records. Who lived in Houston and drove to Galveston, and vice versa. It's probably a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
Probably
That's where the oil fields are. That's where most people go to get their boat to head to the oil field.
You know,
that's where I caught a boat to go to work. So
you catch a boat.
It wasn't in the 70s.
You catch a boat where?
I went into Galveston.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, I think this dude lived either one of those places. I think he traveled back and forth on that highway. He was looking for, that's another thing too. Where were these women from? Were they from Houston? Were they from Galveston? Were they all from the same?
No, we read where they were from.
All of them? Didn't say where all of them were from.
Yeah, like they said. I think so. League City was Laura, the 16-year-old.
Okay. That was in between, yep.
Let's see.
I'll bet you this dude lived, like I said, he lived in Galveston or he lived in Houston. And
Donna Prudhomme, she lived in Port Arthur, which is right down there in that area. That's down south. It's on the coast.
Interesting. Well, that's a little shoot over there.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of were in that circle or that triangle then.
Yeah, they're all right around that area. So yeah.
Yeah, obviously the guy lived in that area and drove around looking for his victims. Found one that he could easily snag up or coerce to get in his vehicle. It doesn't say how they were killed. Doesn't say if they were raped.
I would like to know.
Of course, that stuff they're not going to talk
about. Now you got me thinking that these guys go out, when they're working in the oil fields, they can be out there for a month at a time if they're working on a rig.
Mm-hmm.
How far apart were these murders? You know what I mean?
It's like when he came into shore.
Over the years.
He did his thing, went back out. Maybe he thought that's a great point. Maybe he thought that I can kill somebody, get my ass back out into the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even around here.
Yeah. So that's a possibility. Comes in on the crew boat for a weekend.
Yeah. When were they taken?
Or a couple weeks, to come home and relax. And
when were they taken? What days were they taken? Or what was the last time somebody saw them? What day?
Right.
Were they weekend days?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Could be.
Because normally they're out there for about a month or so, depending on the company and what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then they come in for, a couple weeks. And then they go out for another job again. So
come in to get their necessities met and go back out. Mm-hmm.
Right. Exactly. So what's the time period there? That's what I want to know.
Right.
We can find that out.
Too much not left on the table here. I mean, we just don't know enough facts.
Right. Exactly.
About this. So, again, DNA's helped with some of it, obviously. And it might help tie eventually. You know how that stuff works is like a relative of the actual person that does the killing will do their family tree thing, not realizing the killer is in their family. And then it brings that DNA to life, and they can identify that person by those. That's how they're catching people too with the ancestry thing.
Yeah.
So crazy as it is, there's been crime solved by that.
Yeah. Yep. Well, DNA, man.
Like I said, we don't have enough clues.
No. I mean,
Obviously, it was one person, dumping these bodies.
I think so too.
One or two people. It wasn't different, completely separate killers, I don't believe.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like people drive down that highway and go, oh, this looks like a great place to dump a body, right? So,
Right.
but
Got a couple in my trunk. We'll just get rid of them right here.
did it say? I can't remember how the first body was even found. I don't think it did it?
I don't think it said how they were found.
I mean, someone had to go traipsing through that field that was desolate, whatever it was,
Yeah. I was just reading. I was trying to see if it did say.
Yeah,
Somebody was out there just walking through and said, oh, there's a dead body.
right.
I didn't say that.
Well, we'll keep thinking about it, digging into it. I'm definitely going to watch that.
Yeah, I want
Netflix.
to watch that too. Maybe, and we put some ideas out there, put some theories out there. Maybe somebody can pick those up and run with them.
Yeah. Let us know what they think. Again, our
Yeah,
email
again,
address.
let us know, man.
Yep. Yeah, our email address is truecrimenation@outlook.com. So get a hold of us.
And we're on Instagram at true_crime nation.
We're on Facebook too, so look us up.
Facebook, True Crime Nation. If this one interests you at all, hit us up. Let us know. Let's get a conversation started.
Yep. And if you guys want to hear something, a special episode about some crimes or specific murderers or serial killers, whatever you like, let us know too. We like unique stuff as well, so send some stuff our way.
Yeah, bring it.
All right, my friend. It was good doing this episode with you.
Yeah, man. Always fun. Always like to learn this stuff.
Listeners, thanks for listening. And remember,
monsters are real.